We've got a new and different sort of project going on here. This is a 1947 Old Town square stern Sponson model, 16-foot boat constructed out of wooden canvas in the traditional way that wood canvas canoes were constructed. This particular boat needs a new canvas to be ready for the water again, but before that, it needs to be cleaned, stripped, and finished on the inside, and there's a bunch of disassembly that needs to happen. I've already started on some of that, having taken out the stern seat and the bow seat. I took the oar locks off, but today what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off the outwales on the outside of the sponsons because those sponsons need to be removed from the boat. So this is the sponson. This is attached to the hull. This is a separate structure. This is wrapped in canvas, just like the hull's wrapped in canvas. And to recanvas the hull, you have to remove these sponsons. Now, if we come inside, every other rib, that sponson is screwed in with 2 washered screws. Now, I do not think I'm gonna get to that point today. I just wanna get this outer outwale taken off. So there's a whole lot of screws in here, and I need to save every one so that this can be put back together. Okay. So starting here at the back, all these screws are a brass, so they don't corrode. And I'm saving them in labeled bags because I do not want to lose them. Inevitably, some of them will probably be damaged or bent and I'll need to replace some, but when you're dealing with screws made out of material like this, it's expensive. Oh, now that's interesting. The one at the stern is a different length. So I'll have to ultimately separate that. Let's see what the next one is. Right here. What's the length on this one? Huh. That's the longer length. So just the second hole is shorter so far. It's interesting, this screw that I just took out is bigger, and that came from right here, this is the 17th rib back from the bow. Interestingly, the last screw up at the bow is shorter. It's the same length as that second one in from the stern, but it's a thicker screw shaft, same as this one. So I'm actually gonna mark each of these, and I'm gonna put a little indicator on the tape before I put these in the bag. All the screws are out from this piece, but you'll notice it has not come right off, and that's because it's held on by a combination of paint up against the bottom seam, plus there's probably some old bedding compound behind this to seal where all those screws went through. So I'm gonna have to gently tug at this. Oh, maybe not, we're spring loaded. Just a gentle little tap, and that wanted to come free. All right, well, I'm gonna work it carefully the rest of the way, and we'll have this off. the screw. Man, let me tell you, that's nerve-wracking, because the last thing I want to do is break a nice piece of mahogany like this and then have to manufacture a brand new one, because it's got a nice router-shaped bevel on this. It'd be tough to cut one of these. Unfortunately, that all has to get stripped off of there. All right, well, that's that one. I'm gonna find a good storage place for that on the floor to keep that safe, and then we got to do the other side. I think on this side I'm going to take a different approach. I'm going to unscrew everything from the front and from the stern, and then leave a couple in the middle for last, so that as I gently separate this, I won't have a long piece that's trying to flop, and I can support it in the middle as I get those last two out and separate it from the sponson. So on this side, the screw situation was different. The thicker screw is at the very bow. The next one was still a short screw. And then instead of the long screw being at rib 17, there's one here in the fourth hole from the bow. And then there's one here, and this is at rib 11 from the bow. And then there's another thicker or longer one here. This is 2 ribs away from the middle of where the oarlock pad was. And at the stern, there was no different lengths at all. Those were all the standard size. So I'm not really sure why that happened. However, I will say where the bigger screws are used, there's a bigger hole. So I want to make sure and get those screws back where they came from. So I'm going to mark and label these. There's still one screw left. Let's see if I can get this off a little more gently than the last one. This might be a little bit more firmly attached. Very, very gently. The screw that's left is here. Okay, we'll go safely store that. The other one. One thing that I definitely need to figure out is how these sponsons are canvassed. And looking at this, it appears there's a piece up here. This is coming down over the top, and this is tacked here. And there's a piece underneath that must be tacked up underneath here. So this must be wrapped around from the back, and then it's tacked up here so that those tacks get covered by that piece of mahogany. It's definitely a good day to be inside the barn. It is snowing and sleeting sideways out there as I'm working on this. All right, so we've got the outwales from the sponsons off. In terms of additional disassembly, I also have the outer stem removed, which came back to there. That's the beginning of the keel. The stem band that was here was broken, so I took that off. Getting the stem off was actually a real pain. It turns out that this last screw back here, they had drilled right into the screw head for the stem band screw and then screwed into it. So I actually couldn't get that screw out. I ended up having the whole stem kind of loose and wiggly. And then I took a hacksaw blade and slipped it in between and actually cut the screw off. Then I was able to get the head end out of the stem, and then with some pliers, I was able to carefully unscrew the stub from the keel in the hull. As soon as it's a little warmer and more comfortable, do need to clean out in here. I have removed the floor racks. You can see where they were. And then the bow seat and the stern seat have been taken out as well. Once this has been cleaned with some water and some cleaner or soap, it'll be time to strip the interior as well as remove the sponsons. Actually, the sponsons could come off now, and that may be the next thing. So definitely a different sort of project. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. I'll probably be making some more as I work on this boat, if nothing else, for documentation for myself so that I can see how things came apart and I can remember how to put them back together.